Okay, I want to welcome you to today's final lesson in chapter 2 of SQL Server. I want to spend the last part of this chapter looking at a few ways in which you can retrieve data. Remember, this chapter is all about querying data, and we have been looking at how you can use the SQL server to retrieve data from the database, and we have looked at a number of ways in which you can do that. So I'll quickly go to my presentation. We did look at the arithmetic operators that are used in SQL Server, and we went on to look at how you can use those operations in queries. And because of that, we also had to look at what is known as aliases. That is the names, giving names, meaningful names to columns, especially the calculated columns. Columns which are calculated at runtime. Today, I want to look at the fact that you do not need to select all the rows in a table. So sometimes when retrieving data, you may only want to retrieve data that meet specific criteria, certain conditions. And you do that using the where clause in the select statement. We did say that to specify the number of columns that are going to be part of the result set, you list the columns after the select keyword. To retrieve rows that meet the given set of conditions, you use the where clause. The following SQL query retrieves the department details from the department table where the group name is research and development. So as you can see, we start with a select statement. The asterisk means we are retrieving data from all the columns from a table whose schema is called human resources. A table is called department. Then we add this clause where we say where this is the name of the column on which we are going to base the condition. And we're saying we only want to pick rows where the value in that column says research and development. So when we do that, we end up with results like that, where the group name is going to be research and development. All the other rows which are part of that table are not going to be included in the results set. Apart from merely stating the actual value, you can use comparison operators. Comparison operators are used to test the similarity between two expressions, or to see whether those two items are equal or less. One is less than the other, or one is greater than the other. Okay, and there are a number of operators which are used, which I want to just quickly explain now. So when you talk about comparison operators, we are talking about, first of all, less than. The symbol for less than is this one. That's less than. Then we have greater than. Then we have less than or equal to. That's less than or equal to. Then greater than or equal to. And of course, equals. So these are the comparison operators that we are going to be using in SQL Server. So the syntax is what we have already seen. The comparison operators allow row retrieval from a table based on condition specified in the where clause. They cannot be used, the comparison operators cannot be used on text, end text, or image data type expressions. So these are the exceptions. And this is the syntax. Select the list of columns to be retrieved, followed by the keyword from, then the name of the table, and then the where clause, where you state the expression or the expressions of the conditions to be met for items for rows to be retrieved. Okay. The following SQL query retrieves records from the employee table where the vacation hours is less than 5. So we say select employee ID, national ID number, title, vacation hours. These are the columns we want to be included in the result set. The information is coming from a table called employee, and this table is in a schema called human resources. And we're saying we're not going to retrieve all the employees from this table, but we are only interested in employees whose vacation hours are less than 5. That is, whose vacation hours are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so again, let me go to the Management Studio and give you some examples. Okay. I want to use the Adventure Works database. So I'll say select from human resources dot employee and here we want to retrieve the employee num ID and then national ID, title and vacation. Title and vacation hours. Okay. Now, if we were to execute this query, we would get 290 rows. And you can see the vacation hours, they range from 1 to as many as 97 and so on. So sometimes you may only want to retrieve part of these rows. So that's why you include the where clause, where you say where vacation hours are less than, if we say 5, then you see that we have only retrieved 15 rows where the vacation hours, there are 0, there is 1, there is 2, there is 3, there is 4. And just take note, less than 5 excludes 5 itself. Okay. But if you wanted to include 5 hours, then you would need to use less than or equal to. And just take note that you always end with the equal sign. If it's less than, you start with less than, then equal to. If it's greater than, you start with greater than, then equal to. So if I execute this query, then I'm going to have even those whose vacation hours are 5 are going to be included. But if I say less than 5, it means that we're starting from any number below 5 going downwards. Okay, so that's what you get. Now, apart from comparison operators, you might also come across in some text where they're going to be referred to as relational operators. the ones I mentioned here. It shouldn't confuse you. We have avoided using the term relational operators because it has a unique meaning in the context of SQL's language. So we are using comparison, but in other contexts like programming languages, they might refer to these operators as relational because they describe the relationship between items, whether one item is less than another item or is greater than another item or is less than or equal to another item and so on. The other set of operators is what is called logical operators. Logical operators these are used for cases where you have more than one condition. Okay. So logical operators are used in the select statement to retrieve records based on more than one or more conditions. So you might have more than one condition. You have a database of student marks and you want to retrieve maybe names of students who are boys and have their marks in a test are less than 50%. In such a case, you have two conditions. So in the where clause, you can have even three conditions, okay? So for you to be able to have multiple conditions, apart from using the comparison operators, you need to use logical operators. There are three types of logical operators. There is or, and the third one is not. Okay. I like to think of these operators in this way. The or operator is like a union set. It means any of the conditions, if any of the conditions is met, then that's going to be true. The AND operator is like the intersection set. Both sides of the AND operator should be true for it to be true. So if we are to draw what we might call a truth table, we can say for an and let me use Excel for this illustration. Okay, so there's what is called the truth table. For the or operator, it means that if A, and that's B, and result, so that could be 0, 0, 1, 1. And this one could be 0. That could be 1, 0, 1. Okay. So for the O operator, if this one side is false, that is 0, and the other side is false, then the result is also false. But if when one side is false, the other side is true, then it's going to be true. If again the first side is true, the other one is false, it will be true. And of course, that will be true. The AND operator is almost the opposite of that. So if you have A, that's B, that's the result. Let me use the words true and false. False, false, true. Then this would be true. This would be false. This will be true. That will be false. We're trying to have all the possible combinations. So for the AND operator, both sides have to be true. So if the first side is false, the second side is true, this is going to be false. If both of them are false, that is false. If the first side is true, the second side is true, then that is true. If the first side is true, the second side is false, then that is false. So you only get a true when both sides are true. Okay. Now let me look at examples of this. Okay. So this is the syntax. You have the where clause where you have a first condition, and then you use and, or, and then you put the second expression. For example, you have this query, select all the columns from human resources department where group name is manufacturing. This is one condition. Group name is equal to manufacturing. The second condition is group name is quality assurance. Now, take note of this. We are comparing values for the same column, different values for the same column. And we have to repeat the column name. But there are times when you may want to take values, compare values in different columns. Even then, you have to indicate the names of columns in the expression. Okay. So that's the way you use the O. This one is going to get all the employees where the group name is manufacturing, and also employees where the group name is quality assurance. Let me go to the saver and then do a few examples. So we are getting from human resources department, okay? Okay, so I'll just modify this. First, I'll run this without the conditions so that we see what is in this table. So in this table we have 16 rows. Now we can add a condition where I say where group name is equal to manufacturing or the group name is equal to research and development. Okay. So we want to pick, you can see that the group names, there are a number of them. There is research and development, sales and marketing, inventory management, research and development, manufacturing, executive, and so on. So we want to pick any of these two. Okay. So we're able to pick only for those two. Okay. Now, I was saying you can also execute a query where you take values from different columns. For example, we want a department called maybe marketing or sales. We want sales and only okay, this one won't make much sense. Let me look for the select from human resources employee. Okay, so we have this table. We may want to pick employees where gender is male and the vacation hours is greater than maybe 20. So where gender is equal to M and vacation hours is greater than 20. So we have total of 290 rows. When we execute that, we remain with 167. And if you check the vacation hours, 21, there's none that is less than 20. All of them are greater than 20. But also, you see that in the gender column, all of them should show male. Okay. That's when you use and. If we were to use or, you see that the results we are going to get are going to be different. There will be more rows this time. So now we have 273. And you see that in this one, the gender in some cases is female as long as the vacation hours are greater than 20. That's why I said the or operator is like the union set. It takes whatever is on the left side and what is on the right side, bringing it all together. The AND operator will only pick what is common on both sides. That's why I refer to it as the intersection set. The NOT operator is used for negation, where you want to negate something. You want the opposite of something. So if we have, suppose we want to get employees with hours and not greater than 20. So we'll use the not keyword to obtain the opposite of what this would give us. Okay. So if you look at the vacation hours, what we have are vacation hours, which are essentially less than 20, less than or equal to 20. I can see 20, 11, and none of them will be greater than 20. So the note is used as to get the opposite results. Then there are also what are called range operators. These operators allow us to deal with a range of values. Basically, we are looking at between and not between. And this is very useful, especially when you're dealing with dates and numbers. Sometimes you may want to retrieve employees who were born in a particular period. So you can use the between. Just take note, between is inclusive of the lower and upper limits. So if you say between 20 and 50, you are saying everything starting from 20 itself all the way up to 50. Okay. Again, when you use not between, you are saying anything other than what is in between those two numbers. The other range operator is the in keyword. In keyword, select values that match any of the values in a list. Not in keyword will restrict the selection of values that match any of the values in a list. So if we have this select employee ID, title, login from human resources.employees, where title in, recruiter, stalker, we are saying we want to select employees who are either recruiters or stalkers. That's what it means. So we are going to retrieve records for employees who are recruiters or stalkers from the employee table. If you wanted to retrieve maybe, let me just, another example. Suppose we want to only retrieve employees who say whose vacation hours are 20, 50, and maybe 75. We can say vacation hours in, then open bracket, then we say 20, 50, then 75. So what it's going to do is it will only pick employees where the vacation hours are either 20, 50, or 75, and skip the others. Okay. We have date of birth. We can use it to say we want to retrieve employees who were born, whose birth date are between 1st January 1970 and 31st December 1985. So we can use between for that case. So the difference is that in you give a list of what should be matched. Between, you are giving a range. You specify the lower limit and the upper limit. Okay. Apart from what we have seen, there are times when you may want to search rows based on partial values. For example, you have a database, and in that database, there are names of students. There's a students table, and you want to find out if there are students whose names start with the letter S. You don't mind what follows after, or whose names consist of maybe the letters A and G. For such cases, you use what are called wildcards. Wildcards are special characters that are used to represent one or more characters. Okay. The percent symbol stands for any number of characters. Okay, so let me just use this and illustrate. The underscore will stand for just one character. So if you want to look for, maybe, like I said, you have a table of students with students' names, and you want to see names of students whose maybe the first name starts with, the first letter is S. You can use this underscore. So the underscore is used to stand for any one character. The percent can stand for 0 or any number of characters. But if you want to find students whose names maybe include certain characters, then you use the square brackets. And if you want to find maybe students whose names do not include certain characters, then you use square brackets and the caret. Okay, so these are the wildcards that are used in SQL. And this is an example. So this one, it starts like the normal select statement, select star from human resources department, where the name is the name of the column. There's a keyword. Whenever you are using wildcards, you have to include the keyword like. And then you put the expression in brackets. Okay. So this one is, since we have started with the letter P, R, O, then ampersand, percent sign, it means that we want to look for employees where the name starts with these 3 letters. So there will be Prosperous. I don't know what other names will start with that. Let's just run this query and see how it's going to, what results it will give us. So I'll go back to the management studio. So we want to pick employees where the name is like, true. Okay. What have I left out? Let me just check what column is the manager. Okay, there are no names, no column code names. Okay, let me use, I use the title. Okay, let me use title where kind of production, supervisor, production technician, and so on. So we say title is like production. So we want to pick any, whether it's production technician, production supervisor. We want to pick all those. So we start with what we want to be present. Okay. So if you look at here, there's us, we have production technician, production supervisor, production technician, and so on. Okay. Now, you can also, suppose you want to find where there are some letters anywhere. They could be at the beginning or at the end. If we just want those which are ending with WC 60, or we want to find where it says assistant. There's marketing assistant. We can say where title is. Now we start with the percent sign, then we say assistant. Meaning we don't mind whatever comes before assistant, as long as it ends with assistant. So we have marketing assistant, scheduling assistant, document control assistant, and so on. But sometimes you may not know whether that is going to be at the end or at the beginning or in the middle. Suppose we want to find anywhere where there is the word engineer. It could be at the beginning, like engineering manager, or it could be at the end, like design engineer. What we need to do is to put engineer sandwiched between the percent symbols. So in this case, we are going to get engineering manager, where engineer is at the beginning, design engineer where it's at the end, or it could be in somewhere in between, or where there is the word and, like that. Okay. So there is shipping and receiving clerk, research and development engineer, and so on. So that's how you work with word cards. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Okay.
At the moment.
Okay. So the now value is a special case. A now value simply means there is nothing entered in the cell, in the column. Now value is not the same as 0. Okay. Now value simply means not defined. And because it means not defined, you can't compare it if you wanted to find columns where, rows where the word now appears. You cannot say so you can't say now is equal to now. It doesn't make sense. Okay. This does not make sense because we don't know what the value of now is. Okay. So when you are dealing with now value, you use two phrases. The first one is if you want to find where there is now value, you use is now and not now. So, for example, in an employee database, you have employee date of employment and date of leaving employment. Now, for those who are currently employed, you are not going to put any, there's going to be nothing in the date of leaving because they're still working for that organization. So you would say to only search for employees who have left. You are looking for employees where date of leaving is not now. But if you want to look at the current employee, then you are looking at employees where, I'm swapping. Those who have left, the exit date is going to contain a date when they left. So you can use the not now. But employees who are still working, you use is not now. Where you are comparing with what it is now. This employee, there is no date set, so it means that is a current employee. This employee, the date of leaving is now. This is a current employee. But if someone has a date in that column, it means that this employee has left the organization or the employment. Okay. So these are special cases that you have to deal with. Okay. Now values can be retrieved by using is now keyword or phrase with the select statement. Okay. So this is an example. Select employee ID, end date, that is exit date when someone left employment, and you put this condition, end date is now. Let's go to the database and see this example. So first I want to see the results of all the employees. Higher date, all of them, they should have higher date, but they should have a date, end date, when they left the employee. Okay, in this database we don't have, but just assuming that we have a date Okay, I'll just remove that. I have in column where there's no. Okay, let me just quickly create a table, and I'll call it my int table. Table, and say int ID, int identity, starting from 1, will be increasing by 1, and that's the primary key field. And then say end date. I'll say date. Okay, so we have created this table. So I'm going to insert into this table into my employee. Okay. First one, we're going to just say end date. Then values. Insert. This was employed in 2018, January. Another one was employed in 1998, December 31st. Another one, leave it as now. Another one, maybe 2006, July 0715. Okay, so if I do a select from this table, so we have those two. So we can say select all the fields from that where this end date, where end date is now. So we are able to pick just those two. But if we were to try and do something like that, would get that, okay, which is not correct. So you use the is now and not now instead when you are dealing with now values. Okay. There's also a function is now which can be used to replace wherever there's a now value, you put a value of your choice. So you want to check, like in this example, sales quota. If the sales quota is now, meaning someone has not sold anything, you want to put a 0 so that when you come to calculate maybe the commission, you don't try to multiply a now value by a percentage. Okay. Coalesce is a function that checks each column in a list and returns the first non-now value. So the way you use it is you follow this syntax. It means that, for example, we have this statement: select employee ID, coalesce residence, office, mobile number as contact number from contact. What we are doing is it's going to return the very first contact number of the employees. Okay. Now, that's about the where clause. There are times when you may want to present your results in a certain order. You use the order by. Order by clause can be used in the select statement to display records or rows in a specific order. The displayed records can be in ascending order or descending order and should always appear after the where clause, if there's a where clause. Okay. So you would say order by followed by the column name, and you indicate whether it's ascending or descending. By default, if you just say order by, it will sort them in ascending order. But if you want to sort in descending order, that is starting with the biggest and ending with the smallest, then you have to specify the word DESC. Sometimes you can sort it by more than one column. Suppose you have a list of students, their marks, and gender, and you want to see among the girls who got the highest, and among the boys who got the highest. You sort them in that order. Then you are going to order first by gender in ascending order, and then descending order of marks. So all you need to do is to list each pair of expression, that is the name of the column, and the order in which to sort. And that's the example that we have here. So this example is going to sort according to ascending order of group name and ascending order of department ID, because we haven't indicated that it's descending. Sometimes you may only be interested in part of the rows that are retrieved from the results. That's when you can use the top keyword, where you say top and you indicate the top rows that should be displayed. So if you want only to see the top 10 rows, you select top 10, star for all columns from human resources and employees. We have seen this before. We're saying we have 290 rows. Now, suppose we only want to see the top 100 employees. And we are sorting them order by employee ID, or the oldest. Let's talk about employees who have been hired at and we say ascending. So we can say that we have only 100 out of 290 rows. If I change that to say just 5, we say on the first 5, these I suppose are supposed to be the oldest employees. If I want to see the top 10 new employees, then we can set top 10 and then we say descending. So when we check, this is 2003, July 1st, that's 2003, April, 2002, November, 2002, July, and so on. Okay, so you are able to select how many rows you want to see, but you can also use a percentage, okay? Where you can put a percentage. That is, you only want to see the top 20%. Then if it's 100, you're only going to see 20. If the total number of rows is 40, then you're going to see only 8. This is a case where you don't know in advance how many rows are going to be returned in the query. Okay. Let's get this one. The keyword distinct is used when you want to ensure that the results are do not include duplicates. Okay. So when you use the distinct keyword, it means that each unique row is only going to appear once in the result. There will be no duplication. Okay, that's a question which you can work through, and that's the answer. That's a problem, an example. and which you can try to work through. Okay, so that's the end of this part of this chapter. Are there any questions before I stop? Any questions? Okay, I'll stop here and we'll see you maybe next time.